The title of this panel is Leveraging Data to Build a Business. So now is the time to pretend to take that important call if you're expecting something else. When we were putting together the summit as part of, I sit on the Government Data Forum, and when we were discussing ideas and themes for the summit, we felt it would be a really good idea to have representation from a kind of new wave of data-driven businesses. So this session is really, it's about opportunity. And I want you all to kind of enter into an entrepreneurial mindset, because we're going to be thinking about the future. We're going to be thinking about what are the opportunities out there from this kind of data economy, data society that we have in front of us. And so I'm delighted to say that we have a panel of superstars of data-driven businesses. We have Parsa Ghaffari, he's the CEO of Alien. We have Dr. Nora Kaldi, who's the founder and chief scientific officer for Neuritas. We have Cronin McNamara, who's the CEO of Creme Global, and Andrea Wade, the CEO of Opening.io. The format for this session is very simple. There are going to be two sections. The first section is each of the panelists is going to take 5 minutes, and no more than 5 minutes. We agreed, okay? To talk about their data journeys and to talk about their individual businesses, because they're all coming at this from very different perspectives. And then we're going to have a discussion. You all have access to Slido. We'll be taking as many questions as we can from the floor. And as part of that, I really want you to think about not just the individual data journeys and the stories that the guys are telling you, but also think about the requisites or the prerequisites that we need for a sustainable ecosystem for data-driven businesses, particularly startups in the space. So whether that be access to talent, access to investment, access to training data sets, what kind of ecosystem do we need? So be thinking about that while you're listening to the exciting stories that you're about to hear. So I will hand over to Parsa.
Thanks, Martin, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Parsa Ghaffari. I'm CEO and founder at a Dublin-based startup called Alien. And today I want to, as Martin said, give you a flavor of how companies, more specifically, Irish-based startups, or like an example of an Irish-based startup, leverage data and AI to create value for their customers. So I'm going to be telling you about what we do and how it applies to the problems that our customers have. I'm going to start by a brief introduction about what we do in a nutshell. So we help our customers leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques to make sense of large volumes of textual content. So this could be documents that they might have. It could be social media content. It could be web pages, news articles, and so on. And we help our customers who are enterprises, data scientists, developers, etc., aggregate this content very easily, analyze it using machine learning and NLP, and extract insights from it. And in a nutshell, the problem that we're solving, the first sort of fundamental issue that we solve for our customers is the inherent complexity of unstructured data. So, for instance, with language, you and I might look at a tweet like this, and within a fraction of a second, understand the topics, the themes, the emotions that are being discussed or described in this message. But it's a much more difficult task for a computer to achieve and to accomplish, because language is very nuanced and a very complex thing. The same could be said about visual information. You and I, again, would look at a picture and very quickly realize what objects appear in it, what the facial expressions are, and so on and so forth. But the big problem here is that understanding this kind of content for machines is a difficult task. And the second problem is the scale of this content. So there's all of this talk about big data and the volume of data that is growing at accelerating rates in the industry. And in fact, over 90% of this data and the faster growing part of this data is unstructured, meaning it doesn't sit in a database, it doesn't sit in a spreadsheet, it's textual or visual or essentially audio, maybe unstructured forms of data. And because of the rate at which this type of content is growing, whatever solution we build to extract insights from it must be able to scale to billions of pieces of content. And that's kind of the second problem that we're solving for our customers. The way we solve it very quickly, we have two products, both of which are APIs, meaning they're essentially a bundle of functionalities that we provide to our customers. The first one is our text analysis API, which is a package of 14 different modules for extracting different types of insights from a textual document. So if you give it a tweet and ask for sentiment, it will tell you if that tweet has a positive or negative tone. If you give it a news article and ask it to categorize it, is this news article about sports or is it about technology? It can help you with that. And plenty of other features for summarizing documents, for extracting entities that are mentioned in documents. And if you look at some of these capabilities, again, with categorization, you might have a sentence like this: Tesla beats expectations with the new Model S, and you're trying to understand what categories this piece of text is about. We can help you extract that. It will tell you that it's about the automotive industry and more specifically about electric vehicles. Or if you're looking to extract mentions of entities such as people, places, companies, etc. from a document, you can use our entity extraction functionality. So Apple was founded by Steve Jobs. Here, the first task is to know that Apple and Steve Jobs are things, essentially, or named entities. And the second task is to then figure out, okay, which Apple are we talking about here? Is it the fruit or is it the company? Which must be inferred based on the context. And we provide all of that in a very straightforward fashion to our customers so that when they're analyzing their documents, they can easily extract this type of information. And the third key function in this package, as I said, is sentiment analysis. So is this text positive or neutral or negative, either as a whole, or we have also more granular versions of sentiment analysis. So if you have a review from TripAdvisor like this one, which says on arrival staff could not have been more helpful, food was fantastic, the place was spotless, you not only want to understand if this is positive or neutral or negative, you also want to know which aspects of this hotel this review is positive or negative about. So first we extract the aspects, so staff, food, cleanliness, and beds are the aspects that are mentioned in this entire review, and then we extract and analyze the sentiment towards each of those aspects. So if you're a hotel and if you're looking to understand what your customers are thinking about your hotel, you don't have to go through all of the 10 million reviews that you have scattered around the web. You can feed them all to a module like this and extract insights. And the second variation of sentiment analysis that we offer is around entities. So if you have a news headline that mentions various entities, is the sentiment towards those entities positive or neutral or negative? And I'll, for just a couple of seconds, describe our second product, which is our News API, and it's the application of our text analysis technology to news content that we aggregate from tens of thousands of sources from around the web. So if you're looking for news articles that are about Donald Trump and have a negative sentiment and you want to sort them by popularity on Facebook in the last 24 hours, that will be a single query to the system. It will retrieve all of those articles for you, and along with the articles, it also provides you with various insights, how the sentiment has changed over time, what's the breakdown of sentiment about this subject, what are the other entities and words that appear frequently together with this query, and so on and so forth. So you can get a lot of valuable insights using this product from news content. And how are we doing with time? Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, sorry about that. Yeah, it's been a while since I did 5-minute presentations. So that's it for now. I guess just maybe switching, jumping, yeah, I know. So just some key takeaways. We didn't get to the slides, but maybe we can just go through the summary of them. So our sort of understanding of the AI market is that there will soon be a bit of AI in everything, and then understanding that, understanding what AI is and is not, and what it can achieve and cannot, is very important. Within your own domains, understanding what new forms of automation AI can accomplish, help you accomplish. And finally, I think, as we will discuss later on, and as you can see here, Dublin is becoming a major hub for AI startups and AI initiatives in general. But yes, yeah, so sorry for running over. I hope that was helpful. We'll discuss.
As I say to my children, I'll talk to you later about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
So, Nora.
Hi everyone. Today I'll talk to you about, the slides are not up yet, but today I'll talk to you about how we're using very big data and artificial intelligence to solve some of the biggest world problems in health in general. Oops.
Can we get Nora's slides?
So just to start, so basically, the biggest problem facing humanity at the moment is a huge crisis in health. And I'll go back here. All right, a huge crisis in health. So there's a huge aging population. We're getting more and more diseases, global disease epidemics such as diabetes, for example. We are a growing population in number, so our number is just rising. We're living longer and thus getting sick actually earlier. And that's a huge burden for both the individual and the governments. What's interesting, my background comes from pure maths, computer science, and actually life science. So I integrate a lot of these. But one of the interesting areas I worked in is peptides. Peptides are molecules that can actually modulate any disease in the human body. So if you think of a human is just a bunch of interactions. And basically a disease is one of those interactions not occurring that well. So peptides can modulate those. Peptides are small molecules that can be found in any organic matter. They can modulate those diseases. They can modulate inflammation. They can modulate diabetes by regulating glucose, etc. So the real issue is that so far it has been very hard to identify these peptides that can modulate disease. So one of the biggest areas I worked in and the biggest discovery for me was the realization that food, something that we eat every single day, has tremendous amounts of data within it, molecular data. So here, for example, I'm showing you an apple. In this one apple, there's more data than all social media put together since the inception of social media. So there's a lot of molecular data there. And within those molecules, there are subsets of molecules that can actually modulate human health. They can modulate a disease. It can regulate blood glucose for diabetics. It can actually modulate certain interactions to reduce certain cancers, etc. But the goal really here was that the identification of these molecules takes years and millions. And as you can see here, for example, this is a traditional way of finding these types of molecules that can cure or prevent a disease from occurring. It takes about 5 to 7 years, and the cost is very high, 35 million plus, sometimes hundreds of millions. And even when you spend all that money and time to identify these molecules that can prevent a disease or cure a disease, the chances of finding something at the end are very minimal, 0.1% chance. And the reason why we have these problems is the data that exists in these foods. There's so much data that how can you find one molecule among the trillions and trillions in every, if you take one apple, if you take some rice or peas, or how can you find the one that's going to do something in the human body? And that's where my own background came into it handy, because now it's basically a data problem. There's a lot of data. How can we actually go down to the molecule or the peptide that's going to bind to a receptor in the human body and going to modulate certain disease? And this is where the introduction of big data and artificial intelligence especially is important, to analyze all these trillions of molecules and identify the ones that are going to be health benefiting for human. So what we do at Neuritas is that we have a technology that we built. It's based on a target, predict, and unlock. It's a technology that's based on artificial intelligence that can go into any organic matter. We're focused at the moment on food, that can look at trillions of peptides every single day and identify the subsets that have the highest likelihood of modulating a given disease. And what we get at the end is a prediction on a computer. So we get the molecule that you see on your right hand there. It's a peptide. We get a molecule with a likelihood saying that this molecule is going to actually reduce or enhance glucose uptake and thus be good for diabetes, for example. Then what's interesting about what we do is then we take it into the lab. So this is on a computer. We then make it physical. We actually create the powder that contains this peptide. And this is what we create. We create powders that can modulate certain diseases. The areas we are focused in, or the diseases we're focused in at the moment, are inflammation, which is core to all diseases, diabetes, muscle loss that comes with aging and our disease, and aging in general. And we're a B2B company, so what we do is license this ingredient to multinationals that then can add them to their own products. So in the shelves, you'll see coming through over the next few years, yogurts with certain of our ingredients within that could modulate muscle loss, or drugs that can actually cure and reduce inflammation, or cereal bars or face creams, etc., with our ingredient or active ingredient within. So I'll give you an example of a true example of how data can be so crucial in this area, and how it helped us solve one of the biggest problems, or we're solving it at the moment. So diabetes, for example, there's about 1 billion people suffering from diabetes currently in the world. That's a huge number. That's diabetes and pre-diabetes. That's a lot of people. And certain areas is about 1 on 3 people. UK, 1 on 3 people over the age of 30 suffer from it. And what's interesting about diabetes is that, unlike Caucasians, where diabetes usually goes with weight, so if you're overweight, you probably will have diabetes, in China or Asia in general, it doesn't go with that. A lot of people are actually thin but have pre-diabetes, and it's rampant in those areas as well. So there's a huge problem there, and basically the reality of the problem, or the causes of it, is that the glucose that's in your blood doesn't go into your skeletal muscle, doesn't go into muscle anymore, and that's the reason why you get diabetes. So what we invented, using artificial intelligence and the large data in food, going through millions of foods, we identified a molecule, a peptide, it's a powder now, that can actually regulate that glucose uptake. So it improves glucose uptake from the blood into the muscle. And this now, we're actually in clinical with this peptide. And the goal over the next few years is to get a cereal bar that people could consume, pre-diabetics could consume every single day, to prevent them from walking into diabetes. Am I late? Okay. Again, our mission is to improve the lives of billions of people, so diabetes is just one of the areas we're in, and we do that through the predicted capability of bioactive peptides. But I want to just finish off on 3 things, very simple things, on the learnings that I got developing or creating this company initially, is that we can solve any problem with data, absolutely any problem, whether it's a health problem, an IT problem, anything can be solved with data. But the data is not the most important. It's actually defining the problem. You need to define a very clear problem, and the data is out there. There's a lot of data out there. Obviously, it's not standardized. You need to work with it. You need to get the right skills in, find the right people, but you will get to a point where you can solve any problem with that. And that's really what my whole message is there. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Laura. So just while we're switching the slide decks, a reminder that Slido is available. If you want to ask questions, you can do. Also, at the end of the presentations, we have a roving mic, so if people actually want to go the traditional route and use their mouths to ask a question and their voices, you can do that too. So, Cronin.
Thanks, Martin. So delighted to be here. I'm the founder and CEO of Creme Global, and we've been around a while. And we've been building and delivering data analytics models on the web and kind of doing cloud computing since the early days of cloud computing, I guess. So I'd like to talk about how we do that and how we're leveraging data to build a business. So it's a topic very close to my heart. So Creme Global spun out of a research group in Trinity College, where we were looking at pulling data together to do food safety risk analysis. And we built a platform and a model to do that. And since we spun out the company, we spend an awful lot of time aggregating and curating data from all around the world. And some of this data is open data, freely available, but it's challenging for people to get value out of that data because you have to combine it with other data sets that were never meant to be combined. And then also combine it with other non-open data sets from industry to add a lot of value. So what we do, and we have a team in the company that's constantly curating data and making it available to our clients through user-friendly interfaces for non-statisticians, essentially. So these could be toxicologists using these models, or they could be regulatory affairs specialists, but they want to understand risk and intakes of food. And again, we're coming back to food and chemicals in this area. So we have specialized a lot in looking at food and nutrition. But essentially, at the core of it, it's a data gathering exercise and a platform technology that can deliver data in a user-friendly way to clients. And that's kind of our whole way we work as a company, is to do that. So These are two of the models that we have. Creme Nutrition is a little bit aligned with what Nora was speaking about. We're helping governments and industry to profile nutritional intakes across populations. And we've worked with the food and drink industry here in Ireland, with IBEC, in fact, and we've helped them to benchmark 5 of the key nutrients and the intakes of the whole Irish population. And the Food Safety Authority of Ireland is a partner in that project, and they're encouraging these companies to reformulate, to reduce sodium, reduce saturated fats, reduce calories, reduce portion sizes, and we're benchmarking the impact that has on consumers over time. And we work with a lot of companies. We work with about 12 of the top 15 food companies in the world. So they could be the Nestlé's over in Switzerland, Danone in France, Unilever in the UK. So it's really exciting to kind of have an Irish technology company gathering global data sets from all over the world and then delivering services and building a business internationally with some of the leading R&D centres around the world in food and nutrition. The other side of it is the food safety, and again, we work with governments and industry around chemicals. So new chemicals get developed. They need to set regulatory standards for those chemicals, how much can be in a soft drink, how much can be in a snack bar, etc. And there's a bit of a negotiation happens around that between industry and government, but we're the scientific company that has all of the data that can help them make better decisions around what is a safe formulation to put in a soft drink in terms of things like aspartame or other flavorings or additives. And that goes right through to pesticide monitoring. But essentially, what I see the company as is a data science technology company, and we're connecting up data sets with good models and making them easy to digest for decision makers. And in order to do that, we've built a platform. And this platform is trying to make that really easy. So getting it out of the heavy-duty kind of enterprise technology stacks that people might have invested a lot of money in and takes ages to install. We've kind of put it on the web, like we have been doing right from the start, is like you simply log into this, you can start data science in 5 minutes without installing any software. So a little bit like what Salesforce did for the CRM market. They took it out of the heavy-duty SAP type infrastructure. They just put it on the web, everyone can see it. So this opens up huge opportunities. So this is our new platform, Expert Models. And we've started to populate that with open data. So there's a lot of open data out there, and but it's not being really used well because the skill sets to use open data are things like programming, Python, statistics, data science, database management. And not a lot of people have all of those skills, or not a lot of organizations have all of those skills. So we're trying to help people just get a leg up. So like you can point and click at this like you would your Google Drive. You can browse data. You can browse a bunch of models that we've created. We actually connected in one of Parsa's APIs into this to do sentiment analysis, just as an example. So you can actually put a tweet in and get a sentiment out. There it is there actually at the bottom. So these are very simple models built in Python. And here's one, a random forest predictor, which is a machine learning algorithm. And we make the code available for this. So people can log in, see how it was made in Python. If they have a Python developer, they can adjust that model, and eventually they'll be able to redeploy models in this platform. We've only opened it up to a few partners to deploy models at the moment, but the goal will be that anyone can deploy models. And Mark Little in the meeting next door mentioned an app store for open data, and that's kind of the vision for this, to get that open data and proprietary data, because we have data security and data sharing methodologies, that's my time up, available in the platform. So we want to make that an ecosystem of people with the skills, accessing data sets, deploying models, and helping people make better decisions. All of this then is presented in user-friendly format, so decision makers can access all of this information, not just people who can program. So essentially what we're trying to do as a company is build this platform to connect up data science with decision makers. And that's how we're leveraging data to build a business and trying to help our clients to leverage data to help them build their business. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
It would help if you could hear me. I will put this somehow up here. Sorry. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, okay, cool. Let me just play with this. That's how it works. Cool. So I'm going to set the problem so you know the space that we're in. My name is Andrea, by the way. And I want to just read a little bit of this to you. We're entering the era of unparalleled talent scarcity, which, if left unaddressed, will put a brake on economic growth around the world. And this was said by the former Premier of Quebec, Canada, at the World Economic Forum a few years ago. And the discourse hasn't changed since. And it was reiterated last year as well. Here in Ireland, the boss of the IDA said last year at the European Economic Forum that was held here in Dublin Castle, that the #1 question that he hears asked in the boardrooms of the world where he goes to sell Ireland, it's not about tax. It's about talent. So we're all acquainted with this issue at company, at city, at country, and indeed at continent level. And there's a name for this thing, and it's called the war for talent. And this is the space that we as a company are tackling, the company that I represent, Opening.io. This is the space that we want to aid and add to. We're a young company, and we're a prime example, and I'll get to that, of a data-led, data-born company, if you wish. We're a young company, but we have 500,000 of lines of code and a couple of dozens of proprietary neural network models, and about 7 of them are deployed, and today they're matching good people together globally. Essentially what we do, we have algorithms that match people to jobs, and we do this in various ways. So we match candidates to opportunities, we do salary predictions, we do candidate rankings, we do similarities between candidates, and all sorts of other things. But this is a business that was born out of data. My background is not in recruitment, and my co-founder's background isn't in recruitment either. We were very frustrated candidates and hiring managers. We knew tech and we knew product, and we set off to see, can meaningful insights into data aim to help this space? And we literally started with data, and data in this space means CVs, right? And we sat down and we pulled a CV in front of us, and we had a couple of big questions. Why are we still today being approached by recruiters or employers with opportunities that have little or nothing to do with our current skills and knowledge? Why is this still happening? How come we didn't solve this? And what would solve it? And is it data? And in an oversimplified way of explaining what we did, we literally looked at data points. And we started, we pulled up a CV and we started with the name. And we said, okay, the name as a data point, is there any value in it? Can we do anything with it? Well, if you bring in bias into the whole discussion of recruitment, maybe that's a valuable data point and maybe we can do something around that. What about skills? I have a number of skills on my CV, but how do they compare, or where do these skills sit in the grander scheme of things within all the skills that humanity has, or skills within a particular sector or a particular industry? And then we looked at education and the normal things that you look at in a CV, and timelines, how when I worked in a specific area, and context. How important is what I did on my day-to-day job? Never mind my job title, that I was the head of, the director of, or the whatever I was. Never mind that. What did I do in my day-to-day job? And can we use that information, and can we see how that can move into different industries and different job roles? Is that information important, and can we use it? Length, again, how long I worked. For links, we looked at, what else do people put in their CVs? And we find links, and especially with developers, we might find a GitHub link. So today, something that we do, we go to GitHub automatically, we pull samples of your code, we bring them back into a dashboard, and we put them, next to your matching score. We do the same so we weight them against your overall match vis-a-vis a job or another candidate. Equally, we take screenshots of your portfolio of your designer, we pull those back into the dashboard, and so on. Summaries, paths. What if we look at not one CV, but 100,000 or 1 million? What if I can tell you, oh, you know Java, why don't you learn Scala? You could earn 20K more, and you could work for these 5 companies. So looking into data in an oversimplified way, this is how we started building our models. And we decided, as a business decision, we had to productize the science. So we have a product that is able to gather all this data and provide meaningful automation. And pre-screening automation is really what we do. But also we have a number of APIs that we can plug into the wider talent ecosystem, the existing applicant tracking systems, the recruitment CRMs, the job boards, the job aggregators. A couple of days ago, I was talking to a submarine captain who's still in the US Army, based in Florida, who's also the founder of a company that matches Army veterans to jobs. So wide array of possibilities within this space of people and job opportunities. So try to keep it on time. We're opening that I/O. We have algorithms that match people to jobs. Look forward to questions and things. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrea. And Andrea, you go to the top of the class for finishing dead on time. There's a few questions coming in through Slido. I actually have an idea for Slido. They should actually listen to the presentations, then auto-generate questions. Then we wouldn't have to bother at all. So surely there's a business in that. I'm going to jump straight in here. I'm going to go straight to you, Andrea, and say, look, in terms of the ecosystem at the moment, right? What one thing would you like to see change in order to better support the growth of your business?
One thing?
One thing.
If it's one thing, then more access to data, open data. We're data-driven. In order to really add meaning to the industry, to what we're trying to do, we need a better understanding of that. And then right under that is investors that understand what data-driven companies are about.
I'm going to let you have two because you finished on time. It's okay. Cronin, do you agree? I see you nodding your head there. Do you agree with that?
I was going to say open data as well is really critical to our company. The better data that's out there, the better models we can create and help people make better decisions. So, and in Ireland, it is a little bit behind, I think, in the way that data is getting made open by the government, but they are progressing, and they spoke about that. And there is an open data, there was an open data stand downstairs where you can go and see the portal, but they need to up their game there a little bit.
Is there an issue here, though, Nora, in terms of the IP that's in the data? I mean, if you're a data-driven business and you have data that's valued to you, you don't necessarily want to open that up, or is it the analytics over the data which is where the IP in the business?
The analytics of the data, yeah, the data itself is worthless. It's data everywhere. Like I said, the problem is not the data. Obviously, we need to standardize the data. We need to access more data. But to start off, there's a lot of data out there already, and it's really, it has no value as it is. It's how you feed it into systems, how you create the systems, and what you get out of it. That's valuable.
Pasha, there's a question here coming through on Slido, which mentions you specifically. And I think it's something that's come up a couple of times over the last day or so, and I think actually Vint Cerf even referenced it this morning, or maybe it was David Ryan. There's a lot of claims about what is and is not AI. I mean, do you think that that's becoming an issue, that everybody's jumping on the AI bandwagon, pretending to be an AI business, and actually they're not?
Yeah, I think so, because of the the attention that basically the businesses have started having for AI, and expectations that are sort of built by bigger companies and their PR machines and so on. There are different interpretations of AI. If you grab a random person on the street, they would tell you that Skynet is AI, or some other dystopian Hollywood movie character. Some people think that it's the ultimate job killer. And a lot of the things that you see coming out of bigger companies, I don't want to give any names, but there might be a simple rule-based system behind the scenes that's running system X, but their PR machines are really good at pretending that that like they've solved AGI and Skynet is going to happen in 10 years, which is not true. So it's because of that, you kind of need to get into, I think, at least to some degree, the nitty-gritty of what AI is today, actually, where the practical areas of application are, and then you get a sense of what's real AI and what's science fiction.
We have a question from an actual person. At the back of the room. Can you introduce yourself and then ask the question, please?
My name is Shona. I have a question for most of the panel, except Nora, which I'll explain in a second. So you guys talk about making better decisions, connecting people better, and in better ways. How much effort are you putting into validating your recommendations to industries? Obviously, Nora, you're running clinical trials, so you have your validation there. So how much effort are you guys putting into it, and how important is that to your funders and the people who are looking to pay for your businesses?
We spend a lot of time worrying about that because we are a scientific data science company, so we write a lot of papers and try to be transparent with our methods and our data and get peer review on that. And we also try to validate that the data and the results of our analytics are at least not underestimating the risk, especially if it's a risk assessment. So it's key never to underestimate the risk because that's kind of harmful. But yeah, so we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out and working on it.
I suppose also in your case, I mean, you're selling a service as well to customers, and if the service isn't delivering what the customer wants, then that's, you know, validation in its own right.
That's the business validation, I suppose. Yeah, the business validation is a different thing to the scientific validation of the actual analytics. So the business validation comes from doing a good job, becoming recognized as experts in your field, I suppose.
I'll answer your question as well. So it's exactly what he said. We previously got grants and used grant money to go towards scientific validation and go, here are our assumptions. This is how we feature engineered our algorithms. These are the data sets that we use. Da, da, da. Are we off? What can you guys tell us? But then, and that's fine, and we do that all the time. And as someone who, as a company that is built on data, you do that every day anyway. You're constantly recalibrating. You're going, oh, this is not, this is off. This is what we do. It's the day-to-day. But then the business validation, that happens with our customers, and they would tell us. And they have found ways of testing us every time we release something new. Or a favorite way of a company, a first company that would approach us is to test us is to take some of their old data, you know, so let's say somebody that they hired 3 months ago, put in that job, put in all the applicants that have applied, and see who comes up on top. And if the people that went to interview stage and then hire and all that came up, then go, you know, so that's, but there's a lot of both business validation that happens with our customers. And then we also get external feedback because we're very open about our tech. So we have an area on the site that's called the Playground, where we allow people to do, you don't have to use the product in order to see what we do. And there's a lot of feedback that comes in from all sorts of people that like to put in their CV and see what they get.
Yeah, I think as Andrea said, like with you know, machine learning in general, you do a lot of validation internally on your algorithms, you know, measure the performance against, you know, manually labeled data, for instance, to see how closely it matches that, or, you know, that's a big, like, scientific area. How do you validate the machine learning model? But I think on top of that, yeah, so the business, if people are putting their hands in their pockets and paying you money, that means your algorithm is performing well. So that's like probably the best signal, and it's very simple. And then also one thing that is becoming a new issue or a new concern for our customers is that once we make a prediction, once we tell them that, you know, this thing is negative or this document is about these topics, being able to explain what in the data made us make that certain prediction. So being able to explain decisions made by a machine learning algorithm is becoming a very important topic and a very important validation point for our customers, because, you know, you might be making that prediction due to some overfitting. You know, it might be an issue in the algorithm that in that particular case gets the answer right, but it may not generalize well enough to your, you know, entire data set. So being able to explain meaningfully and simply for a human agent why an algorithm made this decision is also a key area in terms of validation.
Nora, you were excluded specifically from that question, right?
No problem whatsoever. It's not personal,
But
know.
I'm gonna make up for that on the questioner's behalf. I'm gonna ask you a question about investment. So, I mean, how well suited do you think the kind of investment scene is in Ireland in relation to AI and data-driven businesses, based on your experience of raising money? I know you've been through a couple of different experiences.
Raising investment raising investment in general is probably the hardest part of it all. It's a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of no's, a lot of closed doors, and so forth. So in Ireland, in terms of AI applications, I think, you know, anyone that doesn't get that AI is going to be the future shouldn't be an investor. So literally, that's my conclusion. So they should get it, okay? The problem is that they don't get it fully. So they get certain applications of AI, but they don't get all the applications of AI. We apply AI on health and specifically actually creating a physical ingredient. They're not used to that. They're used to like all software, pure software. So for them, they didn't get it at all. It's like we go from an AI to actually creating something. It's a birth of something that's physical, that we can touch and smell and taste and add to a product. So we had to go abroad, and they got us abroad, but they didn't get us here. And they probably still don't get us. So, you know, it's just and that's why I think any AI company should be talking internationally, not just locally. Because I think there's a lot of, like I said, anyone that doesn't get AI shouldn't be an investor.
I think it's an important point that it's not it's very different to a software investment or a software play, right? An AI business, particularly a data-driven business, which is a B2B business where you're selling access, in your case, to an API, you know, that's a very different model, business model underpinning that. And also the time to market can be necessarily a little bit longer because you have to prove the models and you have to have the evidence to generate, you know.
Absolutely. So in our area, the traditional way of doing it without the AI part takes years. Literally, some biotech companies would take 20 years to get to market. And in that 20 years, you need constant investment. There's no revenues. The difference about it is because we have this technology, we're capable of accelerating it so rapidly that we are going to hit the market probably the end of next year. The end of next year, but also we're capable of doing preventative, not just cure. Cure takes a little longer, but preventative measures, which you can turn over an ingredient in about 2 years, from conception on a computer all the way. But that gives more value to a product, because once you have a product that can, for example, prevent diabetes, the product itself, you know, would be probably the first on the market. So it has a lot of weight. Even that weight is you know, it doesn't matter if you have to wait, because it is valuable at the end. But it is a big problem, because our model is not just software based. When I first started going to investors, initially when I first started, I was on my own, followed by a second computer scientist talking to investors. They were like, why don't you just sell the software to companies, you know, the service? I'm like, but that's not the model. The software itself is great and it's amazing, but the real product that has value is the end ingredient.
So I'm afraid we're out of time, and I'm conscious that we're the only thing standing between you and, well, a closing session, but then some food. I know Nora is very hungry, because she told me earlier. So please, would you show your appreciation to our panel in the traditional way? Thank you.